Have you felt more tired lately? Even after a full night's sleep? Maybe your ankles seem a little more swollen than they used to be. Maybe your bathroom habits have quietly changed and you told yourself it's just part of getting older. But what if it's not just aging? What if right now your kidneys are slowly losing strength and you don't feel it happening? Here's the urgent truth most people in America never hear in time. Kidney damage is silent. There is no sharp pain, no dramatic warning sign. By the time symptoms become obvious, up to 90% of kidney function can already be gone. And after the age of 60, your kidneys naturally filter blood more slowly every single year. Add decades of salty foods, processed meals, medication, stress, and mild dehydration, and the pressure quietly builds. I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something surprisingly simple that could help reduce the daily burden on your kidneys without extreme diets, without expensive supplements, and without fear. Because protecting your kidneys isn't about panic. It's about understanding what they truly need before it's too late. And what I'm about to share may completely change the way you look at the food on your plate tonight. Let's start with something most people over 60 never hear clearly. Your kidneys don't just struggle because of salt, they struggle when your body begins breaking down itself. And one of the biggest hidden triggers, cutting carbohydrates too aggressively. Over the last decade, low-carb and high-protein diets have exploded in popularity across the United States. You've probably heard it 100 times. Cut the carbs, lose the weight, protect your health. But here's the part almost no one explains, especially when it comes to kidney health after 60. When your body doesn't get enough clean carbohydrates for fuel, it looks for a backup energy source. And that backup source is muscle. When muscle tissue breaks down, it releases waste products into the bloodstream, primarily urea and creatinine. These are not just lab numbers. These are the exact substances your kidneys must filter out every single day. The more muscle breakdown, the more metabolic waste. The more waste, the heavier the burden on kidneys that are already aging. After age 40, kidney filtration rate naturally declines about 1% per year. By the time you reach 60 or 70, your kidneys are working with significantly less reserve capacity than they once had. They can still function, but they cannot afford unnecessary strain. I once worked with a 69-year-old retired engineer. Let's call him Mark. Smart, disciplined, health-conscious. He reduced bread, rice, and most carbohydrates because he believed it was the healthiest choice. 6 months later, his lab results showed a noticeable rise in creatinine. He was confused. He wasn't eating fast food. He wasn't adding salt. What went wrong? When we reviewed his diet, the issue became clear. He had unintentionally shifted into a high-protein, low-carb pattern. His body, lacking adequate carbohydrates, was quietly breaking down muscle tissue for energy. The result: increased metabolic waste. His kidneys were filtering harder than necessary, not because he was careless, but because he was misinformed. This is where cassava becomes strategically powerful. Cassava is primarily a carbohydrate source, and that's exactly why it matters. In the right context, carbohydrates are not the enemy. For older adults, adequate carbohydrate intake helps spare muscle tissue from breakdown. When muscle is preserved, less creatinine is produced. When less waste is produced, your kidneys don't have to work as hard. A single cup of properly cooked cassava provides steady energy with minimal sodium and very low protein. That combination is crucial for aging kidneys. It fuels the body without overloading filtration demands. And there's another advantage most people overlook. Cassava contains resistant starch. Resistant starch behaves more like fiber in the body. It feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which in turn may reduce systemic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is strongly associated with kidney disease progression. So when you support gut health, you may indirectly reduce inflammatory stress on the kidneys. But here's the key: preparation matters. Cassava must always be peeled and thoroughly cooked. It should never be eaten raw. Boiling is the safest and simplest method. Avoid deep frying. Avoid heavy salted sauces. Turning a kidney-friendly carbohydrate into a sodium bomb defeats the purpose entirely. A simple strategy: replace part of your white rice or potatoes with boiled cassava 2 to 3 times per week. Pair it with steamed vegetables and a moderate portion of lean protein like fish or skinless chicken. Not excessive protein, moderate. Balances everything. And before you dismiss this as just another carb, ask yourself something. Honestly, have you been cutting carbs so aggressively that you might be forcing your body to sacrifice muscle instead? Because muscle loss after 60 doesn't just affect strength, it affects metabolism, stability, and long-term independence. Preserving muscle while reducing kidney workload is a powerful combination. Now, to be clear, cassava is not a miracle detox. It doesn't magically flush toxins. What it does is more practical and more important. It reduces daily metabolic waste production and keeps sodium intake low when prepared properly. Over months and years, that reduction in strain matters. And this is where most people get it wrong. They focus on what to eliminate instead of what to balance. They cut, they restrict, they remove. But kidneys don't just need restriction, they need intelligent support. If your kidneys are like a long-used water filter, then your job isn't to stop using water, it's to reduce the debris going through it every single day. Cassava helps reduce that debris by preserving muscle and lowering unnecessary metabolic waste. But energy balance alone doesn't fully protect your kidneys. Because even if you spare muscle, even if you lower sodium, there is another silent process happening inside your body that can slowly damage the delicate filtering units over time, and it has nothing to do with carbohydrates. It has to do with inflammation and oxidative stress. And most people over 60 never realize how much that invisible process may be affecting their kidney health. But just knowing this isn't enough, because there's another factor that can be even more dangerous. Now, if cassava helps reduce the metabolic waste your kidneys have to filter, there's another battle happening much deeper and far more silently inside your body: inflammation and oxidative stress. This is the part almost no one talks about on mainstream health channels, yet it may be one of the biggest drivers of kidney decline after 60. Oxidative stress is essentially internal rust. Over time, unstable molecules called free radicals damage cells, including the delicate filtering units in your kidneys, known as nephrons. You won't feel it. There's no sharp pain. But gradually, the microscopic structures responsible for filtering your blood become less efficient. Think of it like corrosion inside a water purification system. The outside may look fine, but inside, tiny damage accumulates year after year. Studies have consistently linked chronic oxidative stress and low-grade inflammation with the progression of chronic kidney disease. In fact, research published in nephrology journals over the past decade shows that elevated inflammatory markers are strongly associated with faster decline in kidney function among older adults. And here's the critical part. Inflammation doesn't just come from obvious illness. It can come from poor gut health, high sodium intake, blood sugar spikes, processed foods, and even mild dehydration. This is where mung bean sprouts enter the conversation, not as a trendy superfood, but as a strategic tool. Mung bean sprouts are harvested early in the plant's growth cycle. Because of that, they contain lower potassium compared to fully matured beans, which makes them easier to include in balanced portions for many older adults monitoring mineral intake. But their true strength lies elsewhere. They are rich in vitamin C and plant-based antioxidants compounds that help neutralize free radicals before they damage cells. By reducing oxidative stress, you are indirectly protecting the fragile microstructures inside your kidneys. I remember speaking with a 66-year-old woman named Linda. She had borderline kidney function but no major symptoms. She wasn't eating fast food daily. She wasn't excessively overweight, but her diet lacked fresh plant antioxidants. Most of her vegetables were canned and heavily salted. We didn't overhaul her entire lifestyle. Instead, we focused on consistent small additions, lightly steamed vegetables, including mung bean sprouts, added to soups and salads several times a week. Over time, her inflammatory markers improved. Her kidney numbers stabilized, not because of a miracle cure, but because daily oxidative stress was reduced. And there's another overlooked benefit: hydration. Mung bean sprouts are composed largely of water. While they don't replace drinking fluids, they contribute to overall hydration. Mild chronic dehydration is surprisingly common in older adults, especially because the sense of thirst diminishes with age. Even slight dehydration forces kidneys to concentrate urine more intensely, increasing workload. By incorporating water-rich vegetables, you subtly support filtration efficiency without even realizing it. But this is where many people unknowingly sabotage the benefits. They stir-fry sprouts in heavy soy sauce. They drown them in salty sauces. They overcook them until nutrients degrade. Or worse, they skip proper rinsing, increasing bacterial risk. especially important for adults with weaker immune systems. Preparation determines whether this food supports you or stresses you. A simple method works best: rinse thoroughly lightly, steam or quick saute with garlic, lemon, or a small amount of low-sodium seasoning. Keep it clean. Keep it light. Let the vegetable do its job. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you ate a fresh, antioxidant-rich vegetable without drowning it in sodium? If you're like most Americans over 60, convenience has slowly replaced freshness. And that shift, repeated over years, quietly feeds inflammation. Here's the bigger picture. Cassava reduces internal waste production by protecting muscle. Mung bean sprouts reduce internal cellular stress by fighting oxidation and supporting hydration. Different mechanisms, same mission: reduce the daily burden placed on aging kidneys. But here's something even more important, and this is where most people underestimate the real long-term threat. Even if you lower metabolic waste, even if you reduce inflammation, your kidneys still face two relentless pressures that damage them more consistently than almost anything else: unstable blood pressure and unstable blood sugar. And that final factor, the one almost everyone overlooks in their daily meals, may ultimately determine whether your kidney function stabilizes or continues to decline over the next decade. But just knowing this isn't enough, because there's another factor that can be even more dangerous. And now we come to the factor that quietly determines long-term kidney survival more than almost anything else: blood pressure and blood sugar stability. You can lower inflammation, you can reduce metabolic waste, but if your blood pressure is consistently elevated or your blood sugar spikes daily, the tiny blood vessels inside your kidneys are under constant attack. Over time, that pressure damages the delicate filtration network that keeps toxins from building up in your body. Think of your kidneys like a high-precision coffee filter. If water flows through gently, the filter lasts. But if pressure is too strong too often, the filter weakens, stretches, and eventually tears. That's exactly what uncontrolled hypertension and unstable glucose do to your kidneys, slowly, silently, and relentlessly. According to the CDC, nearly half of adults in the United States have high blood pressure, and many don't even know it. Diabetes remains one of the leading causes of kidney failure nationwide. And here's what makes this especially dangerous: after 60, aging kidneys have less structural reserve. They cannot absorb repeated spikes the way younger kidneys might. This is where green beans become far more powerful than they appear. Green beans are not flashy, they're not trending on social media as a superfood, but nutritionally, they check multiple boxes that matter deeply for kidney preservation. They are naturally low in sodium when fresh or frozen without added salt. That matters because excess sodium raises blood pressure, and sustained high blood pressure damages kidney vessels over time. But sodium control is only part of the story. Green beans also provide dietary fiber, and fiber plays a critical role in stabilizing blood sugar. When you eat fiber-rich vegetables, glucose enters the bloodstream more slowly. That slower absorption helps prevent sharp spikes, reducing stress on blood vessels, including those in your kidneys. Research consistently shows that diets higher in fiber are associated with improved metabolic health and lower risk of chronic disease progression. Stable blood sugar means less glycation damage. Less glycation damage means less injury to kidney tissue. I once consulted with a 72-year-old former school teacher, let's call her Eleanor. She wasn't eating candy bars or fast food, but her meals lacked fiber. White bread, mashed potatoes, occasional meat, very few vegetables. Her blood sugar would spike higher than she realized after meals. Over time, her kidney numbers began drifting downward. We didn't prescribe anything extreme. We added consistency: steamed green beans several times per week, more plant fiber, less refined starch. Within months, her post-meal glucose readings improved, her blood pressure stabilized, and her kidney function stopped declining. Not reversed, stabilized. And at this stage of life, stabilization is victory. Preparation again is critical. Choose fresh or frozen green beans without added salt. If using can, look for no salt, added and rinse thoroughly before cooking. Light steaming preserves nutrients. A small drizzle of olive oil, garlic, black pepper, that's enough. Avoid heavy butter sauces or processed seasoning, blends packed with sodium. And here's a direct question for you. When you build your plate, are you thinking about protecting your blood vessels or just filling your stomach? Because after 60, every meal either stabilizes your internal system or stresses it. Cassava protects muscle and reduces waste production. Mung bean sprouts reduce oxidative stress and support hydration. Green beans help control the two most destructive long-term pressures on your kidneys, blood pressure and blood sugar. 3 vegetables, 3 different protective mechanisms. One shared outcome, lowering daily strain on aging kidneys. Now pause for a moment and imagine this not a dramatic transformation, not a miracle detox, but hundreds of small stable meals over the next year. Each one slightly lower in sodium, slightly higher in fiber, slightly more balanced in energy. Those small differences compound. Most kidney decline does not happen in a single event. It happens through thousands of repeated stress cycles, sodium spikes, glucose spikes, inflammatory bursts over years. And that means the opposite is also true. Protection happens through repeated stability. But here is what most people miss entirely. Even if you choose the right vegetables, even if you balance your plate perfectly, there is still one deeper factor that ultimately determines whether your kidneys continue functioning independently or eventually require medical intervention. And that factor is not a single food, it's consistency. Before we close, I want you to take a deep breath and really hear this. If you are over 60, your body's not failing you. It is asking for smarter support. Your kidneys have worked for you every single day of your life. They have filtered your blood through stress, through illness, through decades of habits that may not have been perfect. And the fact that you're here learning, paying attention, and willing to make small changes, that already matters more than you think. The truth is, protecting your kidneys is not about fear. It's about consistency. It's about the small, repeatable decisions you make every week. Choosing balanced energy from foods like properly prepared cassava instead of extreme restriction. Adding antioxidant-rich vegetables like mung bean sprouts instead of relying on processed sides. Including simple fiber-rich green beans to help stabilize blood pressure and blood sugar instead of letting silent spikes do damage over time. These are not dramatic changes. They are sustainable ones. And sustainable habits are what truly protect kidney function in the long run. Here are a few simple reminders you can start applying immediately. Keep your sodium intake low and read labels carefully because hidden salt adds up fast. Avoid extreme dieting that causes muscle loss, especially high-protein trends without balance. Stay gently hydrated throughout the day instead of waiting until you feel thirsty. And most importantly, build meals that reduce stress on your body instead of adding to it. Your kidneys don't need perfection, they need support. If this video helped you understand your kidneys in a clearer way, I encourage you to save it. Keeping this information accessible means you can come back to it whenever you need a reminder. You might even share it with someone you care about, a parent, a spouse, a friend, because kidney damage is often silent and awareness can make a powerful difference. And if you want to continue receiving clear, practical medical insights designed specifically to help you protect your kidney health as you age, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Every week, we break down complex health topics into simple, actionable guidance you can actually use in real life. No hype, no extreme promises, just science-backed strategies to help you stay independent, strong, and informed. Your kidneys can continue working well for many more years, but they need you to meet them halfway. Start with one meal this week, one small adjustment, one intentional choice. Over time, those choices compound into protection. Thank you for investing these minutes in your health. Take care of your kidneys and they will continue taking care of you.